Hi everyone, it's Bitcoin here from the Big Chubowski. My guildmate SidiousIsPikachu has created a counter to the new Galactic Legend Rey, and I quickly wanted to share it with you all. Big thanks to him for sharing the footage. Now this team does not have all the Zetas on Rey yet, and no ultimate ability on her either, and it's using less ideal 4th and 5th characters with R2-D2 and Grandmaster Yoda, but Sidious told me that the guy has been testing a lot and he had General Skywalker in there before, which he tested this counter against, as well as various other resistance characters, and so far none of those really seem to stop the counter that he has been using. So what he uses is a Emperor Palpatine lead team, and this will remind some people of when Darth Malak first came out, and it turned out that Emperor Palpatine could actually beat that team as well. Then it uses Darth Revan, Bastila Fallen, Darth Nihilus, and Thrawn. There's also a variation possible with Wat Tambor, but Thrawn appears to be more reliable. So it starts with Rey doing her little move, and then immediately the entire team getting feared. Thrawn fractures her, and then Bastila lays out the debuffs. Then you get the full team stunned other than Rey, you get their cooldowns drained, and from there on out, with everyone getting hurt a lot, you can start controlling the field. Now Darth Revan lays out all of the shocks, and from there on out Palpatine gains so much turn meter that he can just continuously keep shocking Rey, until she drops under the damage threshold that allows her to use the very big special. Another interesting thing to note is that apparently so far it appears that Rey seems to target whoever is in the 5th slot with her massive damage special. So whatever character you don't mind losing in whatever counter you're trying to use against her should ideally be in the 5th slot. That seems to be pretty consistent from what I've been hearing and seeing so far. So that might be something to pay attention to as well. But as long as you have enough relics on your team, then the other characters should be able to survive that special. There's just one character that is going to die, and usually that should not be any issue for this team to still win. So you can see there that the rest of the team is really adding absolutely nothing, that they're just stunned the entire time, and that ultimately you get Nihilus who gets the Annihilate in, and that does a lot of damage. It does massive damage for 99k, but it allows him to take the entire team down. They'll still get a damage immunity here, as you can see, but all he really needs to do is allow them to eventually take a turn. And as you can see, he's already auto-playing here and just selecting random characters here and there to try to finish it up as quickly as possible. And Bastila and Darth Revan even have full protection here, so in terms of Grand Arena, it's not actually the worst counter to use either, because Thrawn is being used here, sure. Bastila and Darth Revan are taken up, but Nihilus, for example, doesn't really matter in a Darth Sion and Darth Traya match, because those can be used up against Geos and they don't really need Nihilus most of the time. Darth Revan as well, yes, it's an expensive team to use, but ultimately it allows you to use Malak in another setting as well. So all things considered, it's a really nice counter, I think, and works very effectively. Now, what are some things that you could do to prevent this Emperor Palpatine counter? You could obviously try to think of things that stop a generic Emperor Palpatine team. A nice thing is a fast Nest, for example, but the issue here is that Nest is not able to compete with the speed on Darth Revan, which is what ultimately would get her feared and stop her from ever really getting the chance to do a special that dazes the entire other team. And there aren't really any other fast characters either that are able to quickly put out daze on the entire field, so that's really not going to work to stop this. Now another way to deal with this issue is of course to put in Malak, and then whenever an AoE gets used, those characters get feared, and that might have a chance of stopping that turn meter train and gradually providing some turns to Rey in order to get control back on the field. But I'm pretty sure that CG did not intend for us to use the Rey team together with Malak on defense to try to stop a EP counter. So judging based on seeing this counter in action, it would honestly not surprise me if they nerf this team again. Like I said, other variations where General Kenobi and Chewbacca are used as 4th and 5th don't really seem to stop this counter from working either. Another solution would be to put in some kind of pre-taunting tank that could take that initial insanity from Darth Revan to prevent everyone from being feared. as Rey herself cannot be feared and thus it would only be the tank. But I guess the issue there is that Bastilla Fallen would still land all of her fear and her stagger, and EP would still trigger all of that stagger with his AoE, so it would not necessarily stop this counter entirely. I just think it would change things up a fair bit. It might be harder to get that fracture on Rey there initially, but it might not be enough to really stop this counter from working. For that, I think I'll need to see more testing to make a judgment. So yeah, that's the counter right now. There are many other counters, of course. There's already been one posted of Jedi Knight Revan together with the 2 Anakins and the 2 Yodas that seems to work, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more pretty quickly. Of course, the ultimates might change some things up, but ultimates don't help you all that much if your team never really takes a turn, like is the case with this counter. So we'll have to see what happens there. Thank you for watching. Thanks again to Sidious for sharing the footage. And good luck with getting this character yourself if you're gunning for it, and with getting some counters worked out eventually.